we coddle by not growing with our children and letting them have some independence, so that if they stay out playing outside too long and don't finish their chores, then there's a consequence for that. So you're kind of letting them fail at things and figuring out, oh, I actually needed more time for that than I thought I did.
I want to start off this podcast with a warning, a serious warning. We are going to be confrontive on this podcast. I'm not sure what you're laughing about, but this is not a laughing matter. We're going to confront the failed parenting of a generation.
Of an entire generation.
We're going to fix an entire generation of parents in this one podcast. I guarantee it. Money back guarantee. And we're going to confront right off the bat.
For a free podcast, that's not a big promise.
Oh, it's a killer deal. It's the best deal in the universe. We're going to start off with the top 10 list. And here it is. Okay, top 10 signs you may be coddling your kids. Let me say that again. Top 10 signs you may be coddling your kids. Number 1.
I just want to ask, where'd you get these examples from?
Oh, these were all right up here in the mind, in the mind of Brett. And I had you, after I came up with them, I had you weigh in a little bit.
I was just wondering if you were like, well, I've watched you do things and I've made a list of things.
No, we actually worked on this together. I mean, I need to give credit where credit is due. Top 10 signs you may be coddling your kids. Number 1. Your kid cannot handle hearing the word no. Top 10 signs you may be coddling your wife as well. Your wife can.
Oh, get out of here.
All right. If your kid has trouble with the word no.
You're going to get in trouble if you keep making comparisons to spouses.
Okay. Yeah. No more. I'll make no more jokes because I don't want any hate mail. Mm-hmm. Okay. So. And as we go through this top 10 list, hey, just evaluate your own family. And I will evaluate Erin as we do this. All right. Number 2, top 10 sign you may be calling your kid. Number 2, your kids have no chores.
That's a good one.
That's confrontive right there. I know some parents are feeling some guilt right now. Number 3. You praise your child for everything. Everything.
Yes.
Even things that are not praiseworthy. Number 4. Buckle up. Buckle up, moms.
What?
Because this is kind of specific to mom. Well, you looked over this. You approve this. Just so moms, this is Erin approved. Number 4. Mom packs lunch for her high school students. Okay, I know that hurts for some of you right now. Just take that as a wound of love. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. That's what the Bible says. We're friends. We're friends, folks. Yeah, that one may hurt. And if you're packing lunch for your high school students, you may be coddling your kid. It's not guaranteed, but it's probably 95% sure you are coddling your kid. Okay, number 5, you carry everything for your kids. So
what do you mean by that?
You walk them to baseball practice and you carry their bat and their glove and their bag. You leave swim practice and you're carrying all their stuff for them. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's number 5. Number 6. You don't let your kid roam the neighborhood whatsoever. Like they can't be out of your sight for more than 4 minutes.
So you mean roaming, meaning they just have a little bit of free reign to just kind of
free reign,
scooter around, bike around.
Yep.
You don't have to know where they are every second.
That's right. That's right. We should add one about cell phones too. Like, you may be coddling your kid if you are checking on their location
Ooh, you're really going to step
At
on
least
toes.
once within an hour period, something like that. Okay, so that's. I guess that would be the modern version.
Mm-hmm.
You don't let your kid roam the neighborhood, or you don't let them roam the world because you're checking on their location. All right, number 7, you buy them most things they ask for. Now, you had some thoughts on that one, right?
Yeah. Oh, buying them most of the things. Oh, yeah. I was thinking, what did I say about that?
I don't know, but it was brilliant.
It was a good thought. Yeah, actually, I think when we made this list, that you buy most things they ask for, it's that they get basically everything they want. Like there's not really something they express that they want that they don't get.
Yes, which is related to number 1. They can't handle hearing the word no. All right, number 8. You intervene in most of their conflicts or struggles.
Yes, this is a big one,
We've seen
especially
this.
as your kids get older, wanting to not help from behind the scenes. That's not what we're talking about. Like, oh, your kid's upset about something and you talk through, well, this is, did you try saying this? Well, what did you do in response to that? That's, of course, the coaching that's appropriate for parents.
Yeah, no, this is like the middle school parents who call the other middle school parents and say, our kids are having a fight and we need to talk through this.
And this may or may not have been something that has happened.
Now, of course, there are exceptions to this. That may be justified, like if, the other kid tried to murder your kid or something like that, you might need to jump in. Okay.
Or less extreme. I mean, something that was maybe serious for parents to get involved with.
And that's why we said top 10 signs you may. It's not guaranteed. It's probably 95% sure, but it's not guaranteed. Okay, number 9, you micromanage their friendships. Ooh, what do you mean by that, Erin?
That, yeah, you're coddling the friendships of your children. That's a big sign that you're maybe too much involved in navigating things for them.
And number 10, you set overly strict routines for your kids with no opportunities of independence.
Oh, yeah, you better unpack that one.
Yeah, well, this one is kind of, maybe is a little, this might be the parent who actually thinks they're well-intentioned, but they have they're too strict, and they kind of choke out the independence of their kids. And by kind of structuring every single moment of every single day and creating way too many boundaries, they actually coddle the kids in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like the word micromanage, especially in this kind of context, thinking of it, because of course for a 5-year-old, you're setting their schedule.
Sure.
But sometimes we coddle by not growing with our children and letting them have some independence, so that if they stay out playing outside too long and don't finish their chores, then there's a consequence for that. So you're kind of letting them fail at things and figuring out, oh, I actually needed more time for that than I thought I did. And so that sort of overly strict, you're kind of managing, and what that looks like when they're in junior high and high school, it becomes nagging, because you're nagging. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? That's what that looks like in the older years of kids.
Yeah, so those are the top 10 signs you may be coddling your kids. And if you don't already feel bad enough about your parenting, we have 4 bonus signs. Here they are, 4 bonus signs, folks. Erin wanted to add 4 bonus signs.
Kept going.
Your kids, number 11, your kids never offered to help you or others. That could be a sign that you've coddled them and haven't made them look outside of themselves. Number 12, they don't say please and thank you.
So this would be not for the toddlers who and little ones who, of course, they can speak, but who you're still training in the habit. So it's more of, when I think of the kids that don't say please or thank you. We're talking about, 6, 7, 8, 10-year-olds who still are not in the habit of acknowledging that someone has done something for them. Or when they're asking for something that they realize, oh, I'm asking for something, so I should probably use manners in that.
Can you please unpack that a little bit more?
So that's what we're talking about.
Thank you, Erin.
No,
I just wanted to model for you how well I've been trained here.
I just don't want the mom of the 4-year-old I keep having to remind them.
Yeah.
No, that is normal. That's normal.
Okay. All right. Number 13. Clean your kids' room for them.
Mm-hmm. This is a big one.
This one, if you do that.
If you clean your kids' room for them, you are probably coddling them. At least in this way.
Ouch.
Yeah,
Let that one sting, folks. Don't avoid the pain.
And I just will admit, as a mom, this can be difficult because say they're gone at school all day.
Yeah.
You want, the home being in peaceful harmony is important.
Mm-hmm. Plus you're controlling.
No.
Oh, no. I thought, I just wanted to be authentic.
Gosh.
Just wanted to be authentic.
There are people who are going to want to punch you through this podcast.
Yeah. The moms out there want to punch me.
Yeah.
The dads are like, yeah. Oh, wait. No, I didn't cheer for that.
But if you're cleaning your room for especially your older kids and not having it put on them and that they have to do it before you will drive them to baseball or you will take them to youth group that night or whatever. If you're going in there cleaning it for them, you could be coddling them. Hey everyone, we wanted to let you know about a few things going on here around Maven. First thing is our student conference is coming up April 26th and 27th in Fort Myers, Florida. You can go to mavenconferences.com to get all the information, but join us for a Coram Deo conference, youth conference in Florida.
Yeah, it's a worldview student conference. We are going to help students think carefully about truth, about the authority of Scripture, the issue of race, and also the issue of life. And what does a Christian worldview say about these things? How can I know what we believe on this and why do we believe it? So we've got a great lineup of speakers. Erin is going to be there. She's going to be teaching the whole thing.
And adults are welcome, but you just have to bring young people with you.
That's right. So join Erin, me, Megan Allman, Tim Barnett, Monique Duson, Ryan Reese, and Shelly Komaszewski for a really great student conference. Okay, second announcement. Every Tuesday at 2 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, 5 o'clock Eastern time, we are doing a Maven Parent Podcast YouTube premiere. We want you to join us at 2 p.m. every single week for a live conversation. We're going to answer comments. We're going to converse and dialogue about the episode. We're going to take even questions and answers. We're going to do polls. And we want to just engage on the important topics that we're covering. In fact, if you are on the live premiere right now, go ahead and comment in the live chat box. And we want to hear from you. And so we want to encourage you, tune in for the Tuesday YouTube premiere, 2 p.m. Pacific time. And number 14, the 14th sign you may be coddling your kids. You do their homework for them, or you provide a lie with an excuse on why they didn't get their homework done. Mm-hmm. Oh.
So basically, you're helping them to get off of a consequence that they should rightly have for not finishing homework.
Go ahead.
Obviously,
hold on.
this isn't for like when kids are sick, when there's a legitimate excuse. And do I think there's way too much homework assigned to kids? Yes, I do. But
there may be justified deceptions here, possibly.
There might be times, absolutely, where parents can intervene and say, this was way too much. And I get that. But when your kids are seeing that you're doing stuff for them, and then, or they hear you lying to the teacher about why they didn't get something done.
Go ahead and raise your hand if you have put together a kids' science board for them for their science project.
Science projects.
Go ahead and raise your hand. Yeah, I see you.
I know. Those are the
you
worst.
coddling parents.
Or for us in California, 4th grade is California history when you do, and they always have to do the mission projects.
Oh yeah, you used to put together the little dioramas for the kids. They were so intricately.
I didn't do it totally, but of course you are helping them, and I probably did too much, at least for the first.
I remember the kids coming out in the morning going, "Mom, thanks."
No, that did not happen. It wasn't that bad.
Oh, no.
But I do want to say, okay, first of all, we made a long list because we want to not make you all feel bad, but to help you think a little bit outside of the box of like, wait, what does coddling look like? And it can look all different ways.
Yeah, and I'm also okay with making people feel bad.
Well, you are. And then secondly too, I hope they were able to laugh a little bit because this parenting stuff's hard and we need to laugh.
Yeah, and if you don't laugh, you're going to cry.
When we have opportunities to laugh, we should, because we'll cry at other times too. And lastly,
oh, go ahead.
We have done some of these things.
You just blew my joke. I was
what
going
were
to
you
say,
gonna say?
and lastly, Erin has done some of these things as well.
Well, of course, you're not going to admit that you've done some of these things.
Of course,
but
I will admit it.
okay, but I obviously, and I think this is why we can, in general, talk about moms and dads, because moms in general are nurturing, and we do that really well. And that's actually really important for child development in the first 5 years. This is vital to our children being healthy human beings, is the good nurturing of the mother. Okay, but then what we moms can sometimes do is have a hard time transitioning out of that and changing the way we nurture to as appropriate to the children's age. So that's why in general, it will be the mom that's like helping the kid fudge the homework to get it done in general.
Yeah.
And
well, folks, did you just hear the way that Erin deftly confronted you? Deftly. That was so skillful. You said, you moms are the best people in the world, and you give life and you nurture and you also coddle. I mean, that was what you basically said. And I've got to learn that skill. That was good. No, it is true. There are tendencies in males and females, that there are strengths and there are corresponding weaknesses. And that is just good for moms and dads to acknowledge, because you help me in a lot of ways. Look, if moms weren't the nurturing, image bearers that they are, 50% of kids wouldn't make it out of the first year of life. And so
all kids,
all kids, 100% wouldn't make it. And so there are some really good strengths that we need from each other, and we can help each other on this one. Mm-hmm. And it might be the case that, hey, in there are some times where dads coddle just as much, and sometimes it's not necessarily out of a nurturing kind of propensity. Maybe it's because they feel guilty because they're overworking. Mm-hmm. And so then when they get home, they coddle, or they don't discipline and things like that. Yeah. Point is, coddling in our culture is a major problem. Mm-hmm. And obviously, as Erin said, we're joking about it. We like to obviously have fun on this podcast. In fact, we just got a couple of reviews that both mentioned how fun this podcast is, that they like the snark and the humor. And so I just want to say thank you to
you took
those.
That personally as an
I
affirmation.
took it very personally. It made me feel good inside. Mm-hmm. But yeah, even though we're laughing about this, we do want to be serious. And I think coddling has become more of the norm for American families. And look, we don't question the good intention of parents. I mean, our default is that you as a parent, you are well-intentioned. You have the best of intentions. There's nobody out there who has better intentions for your kids than you. Not the educators, who we also love, but not grandma and grandpa, not your youth leader. It's parents, and this is God's design. So you may be very well intentioned. You may do all of this out of love for your kid, but we need to realize that good intentions are not enough. They're not enough if we're actually coddling our kids. And I think what's happened is that it's become the norm because we see more and more people doing it. And there's a number of factors. We'll talk about what maybe some of those factors are, but more and more parents do it. We see all the parents around us doing these things, and so we just get socialized to it. Again, as we've talked about all the time on this podcast, culture shapes us. It just presents to us what is normal, and we go along with it. So you show up at your kid's sports event, and all the parents are carrying their kids' stuff for them, and we just kind of take our cues from that. We don't even necessarily think about it. And so it's a major problem, and good intentions are not enough. We need to deal with this because it does have an impact on our kids.
Yeah, I think this idea of coddling and what that looks like, I think we do need to constantly think about that. And I'm even talking about myself too, because actually, to be honest, just last night, you got frustrated with me because I was unloading the dishwasher. And that's that's the kid's job. And so you basically caught me unloading the dishwasher. Now, honestly, I just started doing it without thinking. And why did I do that? Because it needed to get done, but the kids were busy doing other things. And so one had just gotten home from practice, and then the other one had, because we have 2 left now at home, the other one had been on a run. She showered, and then she was leaving for Bible study. So it was kind of a tight squeeze time-wise. And so I just automatically started doing it because I was thinking, I mean, I don't even know if this was conscious, but looking back, I'm thinking, oh, well, this needs to be done. And the kids don't have time. Like, they just got home from practice. They're hungry, da-da-da. And you stopped me. And then I'm like, oh, shoot. Because you were like, this is their job and you're doing it for them. And I say to you, well, they're busy. And you're like, so what? We're all busy. You're super busy. And I am super busy. And I was like, oh, that's true. But this idea of like, oh, I don't want to mess them up, or I don't want them to be 5 minutes late for Bible study, even though they're supposed to do this stuff and they know it. I did that without even thinking. And you do just kind of like, you live in this culture where our kids' lives are so easy.
Yeah.
And I just even the little challenge of unloading the dishwasher before they leave somewhere, I started to feel like, oh, I'll just do it for them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that when I stop and think about it. But this is how culture I think it just shapes us. We just start thinking that things that really aren't challenges are challenges.
Yeah. Well, and you bring that example up, and I mean, a million different comments go through my head, and 99% of them are sarcastic. But I was thinking the flip side of that is the times when, and this is where, again, moms and dads balance each other out, where maybe I slip into not caring enough, or not spending time getting the larger context for something, and then just kind of I don't know, pushing the kids or dismissing their concerns or whatever. So there are, I mean, you were being vulnerable, so I feel like I got to be vulnerable too.
Yeah, I could give a story about that if you want. Well, yeah. I won't give the whole story, but one of our kids was like barfing, and you were like, they'll be fine. And I'm like, well, I think maybe some help could be, good in this situation. Yes, and you were like, they're fine.
Let's just be honest. This happened last Friday.
Yeah.
At the Good Friday service.
And our son hadn't eaten. That was his fault. He didn't eat lunch before we went.
Yeah, because he's not coddled.
And no one had, I mean, he is 12, so I'm not checking in with him. You know, it's spring break. I'm not saying, hey, have you had lunch? I mean, we provide a lot of food here, so he's pretty good.
Yes.
But anyway, so he starts feeling sick at the service because, you know, it was kind of warm in there. And then we're standing up, sitting down, standing up, sitting down. And then he tells you that he feels like he's going to throw up. And so you just tell him, we'll go to the bathroom.
I said, I was more loving than that.
I doubt it.
I was
highly.
like, son, I just want you to know I care about you right now.
You
in this
100%
moment.
did not say that.
And I love you. And I want to affirm you in your feelings of sickness. Now, there's a bathroom right out those double doors. You can go there, and in that bathroom, there's a toilet. And if you need to toss your cookies, you can do so right there, and then you'll be able to flush it. And then there's a water fountain. Get some water, splash your face.
Long story short, eventually, the child comes back, and then the child goes out again. And I'm like, what is going on? He wasn't sitting next to me. He was sitting next to you. Anyway, you're like, he's fine. He's going to throw up and he'll learn his lesson. I'm like, oh my word. And then anyway, so eventually I intervened and it was good. I intervened.
And it's good because he did learn his lesson.
He learned his lesson.
And he also came to understand how much his mom loves him.
So yes, we do balance each other out and that's good.
As much as Erin tries to communicate how perfect we are, we just want you to know we're not. We struggle in these things as well. So we're all in this together. I think we should put our arms around each other right now.
You're such a brat.
And say we're all in this together. Isn't that is that a High School Musical song?
Oh my word! Yes. Oh gosh.
I just as soon as I said that phrase, High School Musical popped into my mind.
Wow, you are a dad.
I know, I am a dad.
Wow.
And I'm actually a dad of kids that are older because I'm citing High School Musical. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we had a recent reminder, not just these two incidences, but we had a recent reminder in the Kunkel family of how it is good not to coddle your kids, but instead to make your kids do hard things. Mm-hmm. In fact, that should be a mantra. That should be a Maven Parent Podcast mantra. We should just coin that right now. Okay, parents, you need to say this to yourself. I need to make my kids do hard things. Or no, let's shorten it. Make my kids do hard things. We need to say that to ourselves on a fairly regular basis. Make my kids do hard things. And that's actually good for them. And this was just illustrated really well for us because we have a daughter who's still in the house. I won't share her name because I don't want people to know her identity whatsoever. But she is. We have nudged her. Actually, that's not strong enough language. We have dragged her kicking and screaming into speech and debate. And this is part of just our educational philosophy. We drag kids in kicking and screaming wherever they don't want to go. No, speech and debate, we think, is an important part of their intellectual development. It's, if you are familiar with classical education and the trivium, you've got the grammar stage, the logic stage, and then you have the rhetoric stage. And so at this stage, articulation is really important in their intellectual development. This is why writing papers, giving speeches, doing debates, those kinds of things that force them, activities that force them to articulate what they think they know, is a really important tool of learning. Mm-hmm. And so we've had almost all of our kids, except the oldest, she got out of it because we hadn't really, we weren't at that place yet and hadn't discovered the importance of the rhetoric stage. But our other kids have done speech and debate. And this one, we've had to nudge a little bit more, which is fine. We don't expect each kid to just automatically take to speech and debate. It's a challenge.
Yeah, and nudge is a really soft word for what we've had to do because she is our most introverted and most fearful of being up in front of people.
Yeah.
And like this brings about major anxiety in her to think about being in front of someone and giving a speech is for her, and I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, oh yeah, that's me. Like being in front of someone and talking is like their idea of their worst nightmare come true.
Yeah. And we shared that about our kid, not to beat up on our kid.
No.
But we do want to kind of help you see that this is no small thing for her. This is like a big thing that did bring anxiety. And that, so if our tendency is to coddle our kids, and you have a kid that's struggling with some anxiety, the impulse is going to be to pull them back from that. Because again, maybe well-intentioned, you think that's going to be the best thing for them. And what we need to do is maybe just pause and think about that. Pause and think about our first impulse that, hey, if my kid is feeling anxious about something, my first impulse is to pull them back or to protect them from that. Now, again, that may be well-intentioned, but is that the best thing for them? And so, so we've had to wrestle with that as parents with our kid on this.
And I think thinking about our impulse and then also thinking about modern day advice too, that's given to parents. I mean, modern day advice, especially with all the mental health stuff going on, it's like if you recognize anxiety in your kid over something, like they have some worry or whatever about, the advice is to help relieve them of that too. So it's impulse plus it's what we're being told as parents to do also.
Yeah.
Like don't force your kid to do something that causes them to have a lot of stress and worry about it. And so there's that too. I think that is kind of working against us and making us feel, I mean, we could feel really guilty about, gosh, we're making them do this thing that's really hard for them to do.
Yeah. Well, so if your kid is experiencing anxiety, yeah, it's almost like it's self-evident, right? Well, then you want to protect them from that anxiety. And so you withdraw them from that stressful activity or that individual they're having conflict with or whatever. Now, again, we're not saying there aren't times to do that. There may be time to protect your kid that way. But that's like the impulse for everything.
Because the idea is that that's not going to be good for them, or that's not good.
Yeah.
That the struggle itself isn't good.
Yeah.
And so, of course, underneath that is all these ideas that we hold about struggle and what is it good for us? And, there's all those things underneath that. But yeah, the idea is, oh, that's hard, so that won't be good.
Yeah. And so here's what we want you to think about. Is it possible that having your kid go through those anxiety-inducing moments and take anxiety head on, or take that difficult, it doesn't just have to be things that are, that bring anxiety, but fear or, whatever it might be, the difficult things, could it be that helping them go through that, like fighting through it, taking it head on, moving into it is actually the best thing for them long term? And that if we protect them from those hard things, we may actually be shooting ourselves in the foot with our kids and their mental health and their struggles with, anxiety and depression and all that stuff. In the long term, we're doing more harm. We have got to think about that stuff because, again, this is where good intentions are not enough. And we can say this in parenting. We can say this also when it comes to government, government policies. Good intentions in life are not enough. We want to make sure the things that we're doing, the action that we're taking, is actually accomplishing the things that we intend to accomplish. And so with our daughter, it's been a lot of work to get her into speech and debate. And months, it's been kind of, I don't know, year and a half of a lot of battles, tears, encouragements, long conversations. And I think why we're bringing it up now is because we've seen that pushing through that has been really good for her. And so she's now done some speech and debate competitions where she is up in front of judges, in front of her peers. And we will sit in sometimes. And so now she's done some of these tournaments. And she's done really well, especially for some of her very first tournaments. She's done well. She's pushed through it. And she will tell you, yeah, it was not easy. And there were all kinds of struggles right up until the very moment of the debates. And she's pushed through it. And you can kind of see, and she did fantastic. I mean, the one thing about some of that fear is it pushed her to do lots of prep. Sometimes fear is a good motivation. She did a lot of prep. She did a lot of hard work, and she did way better than she even thought she would do. And she's had some success, even, winning some of her debates as a first-time debater. And so we've seen that success, and we've also seen kind of the slow but growing confidence in her. And now some of that fear and that anxiety is subsiding. It's not all gone,
No.
but it's definitely subsided, and she's able to deal with it better and more effectively. And it's just been fun to watch over the last few months of some of, we're sowing for a long time, and now there's some reaping. And it just, for us as parents, I guess it's felt really good knowing that, oh gosh, we've helped her overcome something really big, and that this is going to serve her well for the rest of her life.
I think it's felt recently really good for us because we have pushed through. And I think it's felt really good because it's actually been so difficult for us. And I'll say me in particular, but I think for both of us, this has been really hard. And because there have been times where she's angry at us. And she's said, like, you guys are making me do this. This is dumb. I don't need And so she's pointed her frustration at us at times. So when your kids do that, you have to be strong to, first of all, kind of take that and say, no, I am making you do this. You have to be strong too in making sure they're being appropriate and respectful in how they're communicating that to you also. But I mean, there was one night she was really upset with us, and you and I decided to go out for dinner on a date just to get a break. I think you were more like, do you need a break? And I was like, please, Lord, yes.
You didn't call me. You weren't referring to me as
no,
Lord.
I was calling the Lord. So anyway, so we go out and at dinner, I just started bawling, and I told you, I don't know what to do because I wasn't sure. Are we pushing too much? Is this something we should just let her out of? And we have just prayed for wisdom through this whole thing. But this is why, as parents...
Let me jump in there to just narrate what you just said there, because I think it's important for parents out there to hear, like, yeah, this wasn't like we had a clear plan. We knew what we're doing. We were for sure. I mean, we've struggled through this. Are we pushing her too much? Yeah, and so I just want to emphasize, this has been a tough one for us. We've had to wrestle through it. We've felt unsure at times.
Yeah. So, but this is why as parents, we're the best position to push our kids in this stuff because we do have insight into them that no one else does. We do have investment in them that no one else does. We obviously love them more than anyone else. And so we are best positioned to push them in the things they need to be pushed in. And and God has promised to give us wisdom. When we ask, when we seek the Lord for wisdom, he will give us wisdom on these things. And sometimes, you kind of take a step with pushing your kids in something and you think, okay, let's just see how this goes. So it has felt good because we've pushed through some hard things. We still are pushing through it. And what's funny, not funny, but it is kind of funny. Now she has seen that she's able to do it. So she will say sometimes still, I can't do this. And I'll say, no, you're lying to yourself. That's a lie because you have done it. So you can do it. Okay, but she still gets so nervous that she will throw up before an event. But she's done this now so many times that when at the last tournament we were at, she threw up. And then I said, oh, you threw up? Because she said, Mom, I threw up. And I said, oh, you threw up? And she goes, yeah. And I go, oh, no. She goes, it's fine. I'm going. And she went in and did her speech. And so that's horrifying as a mom. I don't want her to throw up. But I was just kind of dumbfounded by how she was like, okay, I'm nervous, even to the point of throwing up. But then she went in and did it anyway.
Yeah, and I think it was her very first tournament where she threw up like at 2 or 3 in the morning and came and got me and told me. And I know that she wanted that to be a reason to get out of it. Like, well, I threw up, I'm sick, and we had her push through. And then to hear the progress, even though she's still throwing up, there's still progress there where she realizes, okay, yep, the nervous reaction. Yeah, I threw up, but I'm going to go back in there and do that. I mean, that kind of resilience, and we've talked with Kathy Cook, who is a huge friend of Maven, has written a book on resilience. I mean, that's what we're seeing develop in her, but it's been a tough journey, and part of why we named kind of this podcast episode "Make Your Kids Do Hard Things" is because it's not just about coddling them and making sure you don't coddle them. It's not just about preventing them from doing things. That's the problem. It's that we as parents sometimes have to intentionally push them to do hard things. And so there's an aspect of watch how you coddle them, but also make sure that you're being intentional to push them to do hard things. Now, the larger context, hopefully you realize that as we give this advice, as we talk about this, there is a larger context here. And the larger context is kids being in a home where there is love and there is warmth and there is encouragement and all of that. So I don't want parents to hear this in isolation of that. That's a foundation. There's a hopefully, and I think our kids would agree with this, there's a lot of love and warmth and affection in our home. That's the proper context. And within that, we're pushing them. Now, there are some of us as adults who didn't have that growing up. And so if you didn't have that, when we talk about making your kids do hard things and not coddling them, that may hit you differently. And you may have a reaction against it. And hopefully you've listened all the way to this point of the podcast. You may react negatively against it, and you've got to be aware of that because, of course, how we grew up and what our parents did with us deeply, deeply influences how we parent, how we see parenting. And we want to be careful that because maybe we had a parent that didn't do things well, or we had a family that there wasn't this love and warmth, and it was all just harsh, that we don't swing the pendulum the other way and harm our kids that way. Again, well-intentioned, but action that doesn't serve our kids well.
I think thinking about it harming them in this other side of the pendulum is good to think about, because I think one thing our daughter has learned through this difficult thing is that she is capable of more than she thought she was. And she's capable of doing things that are difficult, that make her feel nervous, but she can push through that and still do it. So the most important thing, I mean, you and I are learning stuff as parents as we're walking through this with her, but the most important thing is what she is learning about herself and how God's made her and how she is capable of things she never thought possible of herself. And I mean, as we've narrated with her too, that she's capable of lying to herself. She's capable of telling herself things that are absolutely not true. And the way she has seen that is because she's had to push through fears and learn courage. And of course, that's how people grow in courage, is you have to do something that you're afraid to do. You push through a fear.
Yeah.
And that there is harm. And what we're finding, not only through social science and all kinds of studies, is that kids nowadays aren't being forced to push through things, and this is harming them. And we did a whole episode on Gen Z and jobs and all that, and it's rooted in this same sort of thing where they haven't been pushed, and so they don't know what they're even capable of doing. Yeah. And that's harmful for them.
All right, so here's the mantra, listeners. Say to yourself, week in and week out, make my kids do hard things. It's good for them. And just so you know, we did get permission from our kid to share some of this stuff.
Yes.
Some parents might
we
be
did
horrified.
Ask her if she would mind if we shared it, and she said it was okay.
Yeah, and so parenting win for the Kunkles. High five, Erin.
After much blood, sweat, and tears.
Good job. I'm glad that you're still alive after this last year and a half.
Yeah, there were some times I wondered.
I thought you were going to quit on us. So, all right, make my kids do hard things. And we're going to talk more on the next episode about some of the biblical foundation for this and also some of the practical stuff.
Yeah, I think it's important, and we'll do this next time, but to think about the Bible's teaching on struggle and how we integrate that into what we do with our kids, into our homes. And a lot of times we just don't think about what does the Bible say about struggle and how the American mindset is so opposite of that.
Yeah. So let's close out this podcast with, Erin, I want you to say it with me. Make my kids do hard things.
Unload the dishwasher.
Maven exists to help the next generation know truth, pursue goodness, and create beauty for the cause of Christ. To find out more, check out maventruth.com.